Job reveals, created to suffer. Vignette number 8. Job's life is going to show us much of what we can expect to soon happen in our world, and yet what we can do. The book of Job is quite remarkable because it tells the story of a good man whom seems persecuted for no real reason. It is difficult to come to terms with the fact God could allow such terrible persecution to a person who does not seem to deserve it. The reader of Job is given some very difficult problems to deal with. But Job is even a bigger story than at first reading. It has to do with the issues on a much grander scale than what one first realizes at the obvious level of understanding. You see, Job is about not only his persecution, but tells the prophetic story of Israel being persecuted as a nation along with those who would show Israel favor. How could God of the entire universe allow the people he chose as his oracle people to suffer for several thousand years if he really is their God? It is important to understand these important issues if we're going to know the God of the Bible. It is also important to understand these issues if we desire to be of God's end-time plan. God's end-time plan is to have his gospel taken to the Jewish people. It is so very important that we understand the immense persecution that has happened to the Jewish people for nearly 3,000 years. We could never understand what it must be like to have this kind of suffering, but we must be empathetic if we are going to share the gospel with them. Job's persecution reminds us of Israel's persecution over the thousands of years of her existence. Interestingly, Job's name from the Strong's Concordance and Gesenius 347 means hated, persecuted, and enduring and overcoming calamities. In essence, Job was created to be a type and shadow of another man who came to suffer. Isaiah 53:3. He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And we hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was esteemed, and we did not trust him. Revelation 13:8 says, Yeshua was the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. It should be obvious that suffering is exactly what Israel has done throughout her history and continues to do to this day. Sadly, this persecution will continue until the day Mashiach returns.